Chapter 11. More bad news. Just keep your eyes on the TV and find out whatever you can, said Abby, as she frantically fast-forwarded through the zoo's pixelated security footage on her laptop. It's live from Rome, said Leo, staring at the image of the whale on the TV. I hope that's not Ernie. On the screen, the enormous whale was flapping its tail weakly. A crowd had assembled around it, filming the incredible scene on their phones. What would make somebody turn into a whale in downtown Rome? Said Leo. Maybe they had no say in it. Isn't that what Gonzales is trying to do? Force turners to turn against their will. Plan 275, said Leo ominously. He felt sick to his stomach. This is bad. We seem to be saying that a lot lately, said Abby. The vision on the TV scared Leo to the core, but he found that he could not look away. A fire engine was spraying water onto the whale now, trying to keep it alive. Leo tried to piece together an explanation for the disastrous scene. Whoever the whale was must have been in the car it was sandwiched on top of. Were they the passenger, the driver? It was disastrous either way. He peered at the TV. What had caused whoever it was to turn so abruptly? Leo knew from experience that turns could occur suddenly, but the scene on the TV was catastrophic. Surely whoever it was would have tried to have stopped the car and hide as soon as they felt themselves turning. And, unless it was a first-time turner, there was no way they would have let themselves turn into a blue whale. A turn of that scale had shocking after effects. Leo knew that any turn that involved a massive alteration in scale left you feeling like you'd been steamrolled and tumble-dried. His teeth had ached for hours after the time he'd accidentally turned into a walrus. Found it! Yelled Abby triumphantly, pointing to a laptop screen. Look! The security footage was frozen on an overhead shot of a family sitting at a picnic table. There was a teenage boy and girl, a mother, a father, and an elderly woman who might have been the teenager's grandmother. They were sitting in a secluded area around the corner from the main outdoor dining area, where Leo and Abby had first seen the giraffes. The family were all drinking from large takeaway cups that Leo recognised from the zoo cafeteria. Although there was no sound on the footage, Leo could see that the parents were talking idly to the grandmother while the teenagers stared about silently. There, said Abby, pointing at one of the teenagers. Watch the girl drinking the slushy. Leo watched as the girl took a long slurp of her drink. With ferocious speed, her neck suddenly fired upwards, extending like a tree trunk bursting from her shoulders. Her family leapt back in shock, falling off their chairs, their drinks spilling everywhere. The girl's head contorted, and within a second was the shape of a giraffe's, while at the same time her hands and feet became hooves, and her arms and legs stretched into giraffe legs. The whole turn had taken less than 6 seconds. She had no warning at all, said Leo. The swiftness of her turn was awful to watch. It had been even faster than Leo's first turn back at Crichton Bluff High Library on his 13th birthday. Watch the brother and father, said Abby, her eyes glued to the laptop. Now they were turning as well, but from the torso outwards, their bodies ballooning into huge mottled rectangles, tearing their clothes apart. Then their arms, legs and heads bulked out to resemble those of giraffes. Their necks grew last. It was like watching a pair of inflatable giraffes being filled with air. Horrible, said Leo. The sight of the mother and grandmother scrambling in shock brought a lump to his throat. The grandmother tried to stop the charge of the giraffe that had been her granddaughter. She pressed her palms against its torso in an attempt to hold it back. But now she too turned with shocking speed, and the two giraffes were momentarily entangled, tripping clumsily over each other. Only the mother was left, her whole family charging chaotically around the picnic area. The scene had gone from inane to insane in less than 15 seconds. The mother was grasping hold of the leg of the nearest giraffe. Leo had lost track of which giraffe it was. The mother desperately grabbed at another giraffe's legs as it galloped past. She's just trying to hold her whole family together while the poo hits the fan, said Abby quietly. Then the mother hunched forward and her whole body trembled agonizingly, as if she were doing everything in her power to resist the turn. Finally, she too turned into a giraffe, hurtling after her family as they charged away between the buildings. Leo exhaled, his heart thumping. It was terrifying to watch such a ferocious succession of turns in broad daylight in such a public area. You sure that they were all Turners? Said Leo. I mean, Gonzales kidnapped Mungo and Rhino. They weren't Turners. And he said something about using them as specimens. Maybe that family were just everyday people. No, said Abby. They were Turners. You could tell by Mum's reaction. The first thing she did was to check if anyone had seen them. Watch here. Abby rewound to the moment before the mother turned. As her family galloped clumsily around her, she scanned their surroundings until just for an instant she saw the security camera. Abby paused the footage. Look, she knows they've been seen. You can see it in her face. If she wasn't a Turner, she would have just instinctively run for her life. Leo studied the panic expression on the mother's pixelated face. It was heartbreaking to look at. This family were used to turning, said Abby, just not in broad daylight. This is my fault, said Leo. It's my DNA. Really? Said Abby. It's your fault that some messed up scientist stole your DNA? It's your fault that Emerson Trimble had a megalomaniac for a son? It's your fault that you'd scored a back-to-front day-turning DNA in the first place? Leo knew Abby was right, and he appreciated her trying to cheer him up, but he couldn't ignore the sick sense of doom growing inside him. The fragile world he'd come to know as turning was breaking apart. He lay on his bed, remembering his early days as a turner. He recalled the first night when his dad had given him the almanac of turning and how he'd pored over it. He remembered how his brain had ached as he tried to absorb the vast and unbelievable secrets held inside a tiny book, a book written by Emerson Trimble himself to bring understanding to the messy lives of turners. As images of the enormous whale on the streets of Rome flicked across the TV, Leo recalled the warning he'd read in the almanac that first night about information encoded inside the book's pages. Protect its secrets above all else, lest they be used to bring peril to our kind. No secrets now, he said to himself. At that moment, the footage of the whale was replaced by a news story. Leo's heart sank. There they are, he said. Abby looked at the TV. The giraffes were being chased through the streets of Paris by a convoy of emergency vehicles. The animals looked exhausted. The chase was being filmed by helicopters shining great glaring spotlights on the fleeing family of Turners from overhead. It's really happening, said Leo. Plan 275. They can't turn back. It's been hours now. We have to work out what triggered them to turn when they did, said Abby. Stop eating my book, Ebony. She stared back at her laptop and scrolled backwards and forwards through the footage. How do you make 5 Turners all turn at once? The TV report was now showing footage of the whale and the giraffes in the split screen side by side. The Italian newsreader's commentary was still urgent and animated. Leo felt exhausted and hungry. He was about to look for some food when he had a sudden realization. It was something they ate, said Leo. What? Said Abby. It has to be something they ate, he said. Think about it. Emerson Trimble created those pills that could stop you turning. Orrick gave us the liquid that had the same effect. Gonzales must have done the same thing, but in reverse. He's triggered something he's created something that triggers turning when eaten. Abby stared at him for a moment. He could see her mind working through a theory. The family at the zoo, Leo continued. They had drinks from the zoo cafeteria. But they weren't drinking all the same thing, said Abby. So there must have been something in all the drinks, Leo replied. Look, said Abby, scrolling down through the footage. The girl drinks first. She was gulping down that slushy like nobody's business. And guess who turned first? She replayed the footage of the teenage girl's explosive turn. Lucky we didn't eat those gelatos, said Abby. There's something foul in the fast food, said Leo. That's how Gonzales is doing it. And finally, they start to work it out, said a chilling, familiar voice. Oh, let me try that again. And finally, they start to work it out, said a chilling, familiar voice from the window. Leo and Abby scrambled backwards in shock. Poised on the windowsill outside was the salamander-like form of Miss Lachlan, her scaly body glistening in the streetlight. Hello, Leo, she said, her gills pulsing. I never got a chance to say goodbye when you left me for dead back at Camp Stillbone. Oh, no. That is the end. You're right there, Ebony. That is the end of Chapter 11. Chapter 12, our next one, is called Salamander Smackdown.